When Evelyn Vance, the icy CEO of Vance Enterprises, confessed her feelings to me, her childhood friend Julian Thorne stood by, laughing. The ring on her finger alone is worth 10 years of your salary. You don't actually think you're in Evelyn's league, do you? Don't be delusional. I admit, I had been delusional. At that time, I hadn't realized that Evelyn and I existed in two completely different stratospheres. That is, until Julian lost a watch. Evelyn, along with everyone else, turned a gaze of mockery upon me. Her tone was laced with sarcasm. If you were short on cash, you just had to ask, why stoop to something so beneath you? My eyes burned, and the hand I had clenched into a fist couldn't stop trembling. When I resigned, I blocked Evelyn on every platform. I left without a sound. I never expected that the woman who sat high above everyone else would spend 5 years looking for me. It started when Julian Thorne, the CEO's right-hand man, lost a Vacheron Constantine worth a fortune. Without my knowledge, he led a team to search my cubicle. He turned my workspace upside down, all while making casual, joking remarks to Evelyn. Evie, Caleb is your boyfriend. Just tell him to give the watch back to me. They had grown up together. Their bond was naturally different from others. Sometimes, even as her official boyfriend, I had to admit their effortless intimacy sparked a deep, burning jealousy in me. When they huddled together discussing childhood memories or shared history, I could never find a way into the conversation. But this time, Evelyn didn't chime in. She didn't even look at him. She just said, in a flat tone, "It's just a watch. I'll buy you another one." The office instantly exploded into chaos. Colleagues began whispering, "What does the CEO mean? Did Team Leader Stone really steal it? Why are you surprised? Everyone knows his family is broke, and he was the only one who left the office during the weekly meeting. That's a Vacheron Constantine. Caleb's salary for 6 months wouldn't cover it. I heard Caleb's mom is famous in her neighborhood for having sticky fingers." I stood frozen at the door. It felt like being struck by lightning on a clear day. My body wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't realize that the people who smiled and greeted me to my face were saying these things behind my back. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Team Leader Stone is back." The atmosphere stiffened instantly. Everyone's eyes locked onto me. In that moment, I felt like I was under a spotlight, awaiting sentencing. I lowered my head, pressing my lips together, and saw Evelyn turn to look at me. Maybe it was an illusion, but I saw disappointment in the depths of her eyes. I didn't want to explain. I knew no one would believe an explanation. "Forget it," Julian said, raising a brow. "I'm not exactly hurting for a watch." If Julian had just been upfront and said he might have misplaced it, the matter would have ended there. But what was with this ambiguous implication? I didn't want to be a suspect, the focal point of office gossip. As Julian turned to leave, I grabbed his arm, insisting we go check the security footage together. Julian smirked at me, his eyes filled with an indescribable mockery. I thought Julian might refuse, but I never imagined the one to refuse would be Evelyn. She gently took my arm, smiling as she comforted me. "It's okay, Caleb. Let it go." In the past, whenever I was down, Evelyn would comfort me like this. But now, the suppressed grievance and humiliation were forced out by her words. "I am not okay." I looked down at her, my voice already cracking with tears. "My mom brought me some things." I asked for a break during the meeting to put the clementines she brought into my drawer. I had only gone back to the office to drop off the items. My mom had taken 2 different trains to bring them to me. She said the weather was getting cold, and if I lost my appetite, eating a clementine would give me a boost. They were from our family garden. But Evelyn didn't seem to care what I'd gone back to do. She said it didn't matter. Whatever I did, she would handle it. But what I wanted to say was, I clearly hadn't done anything. Compared to paying damages, the first issue to resolve should be my reputation. I insisted on pulling the security tapes. Evelyn laughed, a sound laced with impatience. "Caleb, that's enough. This is as far as I can help you. Didn't you say a while ago that your mom wasn't well, and the roof at home was leaking? You wanted to buy a new house? Being that short on money gives you a motive. Also, the cameras in the office mysteriously malfunctioned today. You wouldn't happen to know about that, would you, Caleb?" My head buzzed. For some reason, I suddenly remembered something Julian once said to me. He said, "You and Evie aren't from the same world." I didn't understand it then, but in this moment, I suddenly did. Julian wasn't just fear-mongering. He was telling the truth. Evelyn Vance, the golden girl who grew up in a honey pot, looked down on the poor in her bones. Did she not know the importance of a reputation? No, she simply never believed a word I said from the start. I don't know who pulled my drawer open, but the clementines my mom gave me tumbled out, scattering across the floor. I watched as 1 or 2 were accidentally crushed under someone's shoe. The last thread of my composure snapped. Beside me, Evelyn continued talking. Caleb, I had already decided to gift you a house. Why did you have to do something like this? I couldn't listen anymore. When I looked up again, my eyes were bloodshot. Ms. Vance, my family is poor, but I would absolutely never do something like this. The north wind cut through me, chilling me to the bone. I sat on a rooftop terrace, holding 2 clementines, eating them in silence. These were the only 2 left. The others were crushed and inedible. When Evelyn found me, her tone was clearly suppressing her anger. What are you doing up here? Trying to scare people by threatening to jump? Stop eating those oranges, aren't they dirty? I acted as if I hadn't heard. Caleb Stone, do you hear me? It's just a bag of oranges. Is it worth this? I'll have someone buy you 2 crates. Evelyn rarely lost her temper with me. Usually, I would have walked away with a cold face. But now I just wanted to quietly finish these 2 clementines. She walked over with her coat, intending to drape it over me, but I scooted slightly to the side. She looked surprised. Are you rejecting me? After a second of silence, Evelyn lowered her head, pursed her lips, and stepped back. She placed the coat on my knees. She stood there quietly in the wind. By the time I ate the last segment of the clementine, the wind had picked up significantly. Evelyn spoke. About the watch, I will. Don't bother. I'll handle it myself. I interrupted her. Evelyn's tone carried impatience and confusion. What is your status? How will you handle it? Do you know how much Julian's watch is worth? Do you plan to rely on that tiny salary of yours? Hearing her words, I felt an urge to laugh. Think whatever you want. It has nothing to do with you anymore. I carefully gathered the peels from the ground, stood up, and walked back inside. Her voice sounded tiny in the wind. I vaguely heard her calling my name, but I didn't look back. After that day, Evelyn didn't appear at the company for a long time. That was our last conversation. Julian didn't continue to harass me, either. But the rumors didn't stop. My department head looked at me with strange eyes every day, occasionally dropping hints that the company would investigate the matter to the end. When I returned to the office, people who saw me would subconsciously rush to lock their luxury watches, phones, or handbags into their drawers. I stood frozen in place, my heart sinking. I had worked hard for over a decade to get into a top-tier university, and after graduation, I smoothly entered this multinational corporation, becoming a key player in the department. I never thought there would be a day when I'd be guarded against like a criminal. During a company team-building event outdoors, someone pointed at my mother in the distance and laughed. Look, isn't that Caleb's mom? I heard she had sticky fingers when she was young, and she had unusual relationships with a lot of men. Like mother, like son. Didn't Caleb steal Director Thorne's watch? In the sunlight, I saw my mother's figure pause. I was too heartbroken to look at her face. If they were just discussing me, I could ignore it. But when they started talking about my mom, my heart felt like it was being sliced into 1,000 pieces. That was the most agonizing day of my life. When we got home, Mom cooked a huge table of dishes and, exceptionally, poured 2 glasses of wine. I whispered, Mom, you know I couldn't have done that. My mom didn't say anything, just raised her glass to clink against mine. Is Mom dragging you down? I saw her smile bitterly. Caleb, don't be sad. It's Mom's fault that you're being looked down on. She told me about what happened back then. Mom never married. She found me by the roadside. Before I was 100 days old, I fell seriously ill. There was a massive medical bill with no way to pay it. To save me, she worked several jobs at once. Because she suddenly made money, rumors started spreading that she had messy relationships with men. However, the money still wasn't enough. Desperate, she resorted to theft. Although there was a reason, doing it meant I did it. I have no excuse to defend myself. Mom just wants to tell you, life offers many chances to choose. Never walk down the wrong path. But Mom doesn't regret it. As long as you're alive, Mom thinks everything was worth it. My mother's voice trembled slightly. Her words dissolved into the wine glass. In the end, I didn't know if she was talking to me or to herself. She said if it hadn't been her, maybe someone else would have picked me up. My life might have been better than it was now. Then, my mom suddenly fell ill. I had no choice but to take leave from the company. I stayed at the hospital 24/7. While I was busy running around taking care of my mom, I ran into Julian in the hospital lobby. Julian knew my mom. The last time they met, Julian was with Evelyn. It was right in front of my mom's fruit stand. He crossed his arms, looking at the fruit with a critical eye, his tone filled with suspicion. Is this fruit fresh? The dust is so thick. Is this how you fool customers? You can eat it yourself, just don't make Evie eat it. I saw Evelyn take a bite, but she quickly frowned. Finally, unable to hold it back, she looked like she wanted to gag. My mom nervously pulled a few tissues from a packet to hand to Evelyn, but Evelyn just stared at the cheap tissues, dazed. It was Julian who pulled out a clean, high-end silk handkerchief and wiped her mouth for her. That night, Evelyn and I had a fight. A massive one. Snapping back to reality, I looked at Julian warily. Julian smiled. Caleb, looks like you really are short on cash. Why didn't you say your mom was sick? We're all colleagues. If you just ask, Evie and I wouldn't ignore you. As he spoke, he handed me a stack of cash. What does this mean? Doesn't treating your mom cost money? Do you have any projects right now? How can you cure her relying on that tiny salary? I know a pretty good hospital for this kind of illness. I could take you there, but it's far away. I suggest you settle down there directly. I looked at him in surprise, not understanding his angle. Do you know why Evie hasn't shown up lately? Because she's getting a little annoyed. Your family is poor, and you committed theft. Evie has a lot of pride. How can she save face with you around? It's just that she's kind and can't say the words to break up. So, me coming to the hospital today, it's also her idea. Julian's voice was magnetic, smooth as jade. Yet it made my heart sink once again into the deepest ocean, bringing waves of suffocation. My body couldn't stop shaking. From the hospital room, my mother's intermittent sighs seemed to drift out. An invisible voice urged me to take the money and agree. Thank you. I will resign as soon as possible to focus on caring for my mom. I will pay this money back to you. It just might take a long time. Leave me a bank account number. He raised an eyebrow mockingly. I can give you the number. Whether you pay it back or not doesn't matter. I didn't tell anyone about my resignation. I took my mom to that distant hospital. Her condition gradually improved. I found a regular job near the hospital. Although I didn't earn much, I could take care of my mom, which gave me peace. As for the money Julian gave me, I followed the account number he provided and paid back a portion every month. It wasn't until 5 years later that I completely paid it off. 5 years flashed by. I never thought I would reunite with Evelyn. It was at a colleague's wedding. Most of the attendees were high society. Actually, I didn't want to go, but the colleague insisted. I only get married once. You left without saying goodbye back then, fine, but if you don't come to my wedding, is our relationship really that fragile? I know things ended badly with you, the CEO, and Director Thorne, but what does that have to do with our friendship? He was the only person I kept in contact with after leaving. Although his words could be sharp, he was a good person. I couldn't refuse, so I agreed. Walking into the hotel ballroom, a wave of opulence hit me. Sure enough, this gathering of the elite wasn't meant for people like me. But since I was there, I had to be at peace with it. When handing over the gift money, the envelope I presented was the thinnest. The person in charge of registration was polite, but asked me again, "Are you sure this is the correct amount?" "No mistake." I smiled faintly. "No mistake." After taking my seat, I instantly attracted everyone's attention. Isn't that team leader Stone? Why did Caleb suddenly resign back then? We didn't hear a thing. When Julian saw me, his expression changed slightly. Speaking of why Caleb resigned, I'm also curious. I wonder if the incident with the watch affected your mood, Caleb? Actually, I decided not to pursue it back then. After all, everyone makes mistakes. Julian clearly wanted to chase me out before Evelyn arrived. His words got nastier by the second. I smiled. How is it that 5 years later, you have even less composure, Julian? 5 years ago, I said I didn't take it. 5 years later, I say the same thing. I, Caleb Stone, may be poor, but I do not steal. I took a step forward and lowered my voice near his ear. Besides, Julian, you don't think I don't know what really happened with that watch, do you? I didn't wait for Julian's answer, because the doors to the private room opened. The entire room went silent. Julian stared intently at the entrance. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Julian's face turned ugly. I didn't turn around, but I felt her gaze land on me. As she brushed past me, she suddenly grabbed the hem of my jacket. "You're leaving just like that?" I ignored her, didn't even bat an eyelid. She seemed to laugh bitterly. "Disappeared for 5 years. And you have nothing to say to me?" "Nothing," I said coldly. She froze for a moment. "Okay." Then she let go. When I reached the exit, the sound of high heels clacking rapidly approached from behind. "It's raining. Let me drive you." I looked outside. Sure enough, it was pouring. The cool wind blew, making me feel uneasy. But I shook off Evelyn's hand, still refusing to look at her. "No need." I said, "I'll take a cab." Evelyn didn't give me a chance to refuse. "Wait for me." Soon, a red Porsche pulled up in front of me. Evelyn's aura was as striking as it was 5 years ago, but now with more composure and restraint. 5 years later, the gap from our youth was now magnified infinitely. Just the jade pendant on Evelyn's neck was worth years of struggle for many people. This gap wasn't something hard work could bridge. "I've already called a cab. Thanks," I repeated, feeling a bit drained. Evelyn didn't speak. She opened the passenger door and stood there motionless, looking at me with pleading eyes. It felt like if I didn't get in the car, she would burst into tears the next second. It was hard to believe this was the same female CEO who hadn't come to the office for ages because I embarrassed her. And now, in front of everyone, After being explicitly rejected by me, she was stubbornly insisting on driving me home. After a long standoff, my cab finally arrived. Just as I stepped forward, Evelyn suddenly blocked my path. Caleb, we didn't break up. You never formally broke up with me. Her voice sounded nasal, as if she were aggrieved and sad. I just smiled faintly. Then I'm saying it formally now. I straightened my lapels, rubbed my face to look alert, and said it was my fault. Before I could finish, she suddenly covered my mouth. Caleb. At that moment, Julian came out of the private room. Seeing us, he wrapped his arm around Evelyn's shoulder as if no one else was there. Let's go. Everyone is waiting for me to talk about the legendary story of our business merger. Julian always spoke to Evelyn in this tone. A little teasing, a little banter, a little scolding, a little flirtatious. With Evelyn blocked, I seized the chance and quickly got into the taxi. I told the driver to hurry. The next second, the car sped off into the traffic and no one could find us. As soon as the car started, the driver couldn't contain his burning curiosity. Buddy, what's your relationship with that woman? She's the famous rich beauty of our city. She's my former boss. Just a boss. The driver didn't quite believe it. Then what do you think is possible between me and a woman who drives a supercar? The driver seemed to understand immediately. True. Women with looks and money like that. Who knows how deep their hearts are hidden? Even my wife, just because her family has a bit more money, I can't get a word in at home. Life is tough. Chatting along the way, we arrived. As soon as the driver left, a supercar tore through the night and stopped behind me. My apartment complex was old and run down. There was no property management. The streetlights had been broken for months with no one coming to fix them. I didn't expect Evelyn to follow me. She looked up at my face. Haven't fixed the habit of blushing when you lie. Who is your former boss? I didn't respond to her question. My gaze landed on her middle finger, or rather, the bracelet on her wrist. The wooden prayer beads from that year. I climbed up the mountains of Sedona alone to pray for her. At first, she refused to wear it, saying it was something men wore. Later, after I coaxed her endlessly, she reluctantly put it on to try. Unexpectedly, it looked exceptionally good. I looked at it for a few seconds. I don't know why, but my heart felt absolutely no ripple of emotion. Is there something you need? We haven't finished talking. I found it funny, but just as I was about to speak, she cut me off. I don't want to talk now. Where do you live? What exactly do you want? It's very late. I just want to know where you live. I'm afraid of losing you again. The wind howled past my ears. In this moment, I felt my heart soften like never before. In those early days after I resigned, every night, I would remember the scene of Julian leading people to search my desk. Sleeping in the hospital at night, accompanying my mom through her treatment, my nightmares were constant. I dreamt my mom finally died, and Evelyn just stood in the distance, watching me cry my heart out. I would wake up drenched in sweat, seeing it was still midnight, and have to pant for a long time before I could calm down. Later, I stopped dreaming. I certainly stopped dreaming of Evelyn. I thought it all passed. But in this moment, I realized perhaps it hadn't passed at all. I had just selectively forgotten these things. Ms. Vance, I'm just an ordinary person. Can you please stop disturbing my ordinary, happy life? I'm not. Evelyn's gaze suddenly shifted away when she looked at me. She took a step back. It's late. Go home. I turned and went upstairs. I could still feel her gaze. Closing the door, I leaned back against the wooden panel. I suddenly felt something heavy in my pocket. Checking it. It was the bracelet of prayer beads. Why are you so cold? Was the wind too strong outside? I half reclined on the bed, watching my mom bustle about. She grabbed a hot towel and then made me tea. My nose stung, and I lowered my head and smiled. I got a bonus today, Mom. I'm happy. I was thinking of using the money to fix the heating pipes. I was humming a song walking back and didn't notice the wind. You're a grown man. Why are you still so senseless? No matter how happy you are, you can't joke with your health. Don't do that again. I'll go boil you some ginger soup. Don't sleep yet. I collapsed onto the sofa. In my days, watching my mom's silhouette, she seemed more bent over than before. I rarely got sick. I burned with a confusing fever. Mom was frantic to send me to the hospital, but I said no need. I'd be fine after sleeping. When I woke up, I was already in a hospital room. The colleague who got married a few days ago brought his wife to see me. I squinted to look closely and smiled. You two really do look alike. My colleague turned his head, ignoring me. I invite you to a wedding, and you go and put yourself in the hospital. How am I supposed to feel okay about that? I looked at him. If you don't feel okay, buy me dinner next time. I'm a newlywed. You have the nerve to disturb me? His wife laughed and punched him lightly. I took the hint and stopped the topic there. The colleague's wife was named Chloe, and she was best friend with Evelyn. This was my second time meeting her. She brought me some food, and I could tell at a glance she hadn't prepared any of it. But I didn't point it out. When they were leaving, I stopped Chloe. Since you're good friends, please bring something to her for me. What is it? Isn't this the one Evelyn personally went to ask for when we all went hiking in Sedona? Chloe paused, not taking it. You guys should resolve your own issues. As friends, it's not good for us to get too involved. I stuffed it into her bag, my attitude firm. My colleague, afraid of disturbing my rest, dragged her away. Before the door closed, I heard them talking. I know Caleb's personality. Once he decides something, no one can change it. But Evelyn, forget it. The door closed, and I drifted back to sleep. In my dreams, the wind was always blowing. Evelyn followed step by step behind me. Her voice was soft, a little helpless. Do we have to go pray personally? I see other people just pay someone to donate for them. Yes, regarding gods and Buddhas, you cannot use others' hands. If the divine doesn't see your sincerity, how will it bless you with smooth sailing? Evelyn looked down on these superstitious practices, but ultimately, she held my hand and climbed the mountain with me. Then wait for me here. Okay. She couldn't climb anymore, so I let her sit on a large rock to wait for me. In the end, she finally waited until I came back, stepping through the sunset. I gave her the wooden bead bracelet. The monk said, "Wear this, and you will be happy your whole life." She laughed and threw herself into my arms. There were tears in her eyes. If you want me to be happy my whole life, then you have to stay by my side for my whole life. When I woke up, it was already dark. It had started raining outside at some point. Thinking of that hazy dream, I felt anxious and uneasy. I hadn't dreamed like that in a long time. Perhaps it was the sickness making me overly sentimental. Outside, I heard a nurse scolding someone. Mom hadn't come to deliver food yet. For some reason, my heart suddenly panicked. I got out of bed to drink a large glass of water, but the panic only grew more distinct. I planned to go downstairs for a walk. Just as I reached the hospital entrance, I saw Evelyn's red sports car parked there. Many passers-by took a second look. The owner stood by the curb, leaning against the car, revealing long legs. Her brows were damp with the night dew. When she turned and saw me, she looked like the Evelyn from my memories. "That bracelet, why didn't you want it?" She spoke, her voice carrying a tearful grievance. "About the watch. Back then, I just wanted to help you solve it quickly. But right at that time, something happened with my family. I was so busy my feet didn't touch the ground. When I went back to the company, I found out you had already resigned. Caleb, I never looked down on you." I didn't look at her, just lowered my head to stare at the dew on my shoes. After 2 seconds, I spoke softly. "But you didn't believe me back then either. You were just like everyone else." Evelyn's figure swayed slightly. Her face was pale. Words of defense wouldn't come out. "Actually, Julian was right. We were never from the same world. Don't live in the past anymore. You want to hear me say those 2 words, but actually, I've said them many times. Are you cold?" She suddenly interrupted me. Her eyes held a humble plea. I steeled myself and said flatly, "Evelyn, we broke up 5 years ago. If you don't remember, let me remind you again now." Evelyn's face instantly turned sheet white. "Caleb," she wanted to say more, but my phone rang abruptly. It was my mom. On the other end, there was the sound of smashing and crashing. "Caleb, someone smashed your mom's fruit stand. Come quick." It was like the stone suspended in my heart finally dropped. Someone had smashed my mom's stall. The ground was a mess, chaotic and ruined. My mom had been pushed to the ground and was unconscious. When I returned to the hospital, my fingernails dug fiercely into my palms. The next second, my fingers were gently pried open by Evelyn. "Caleb, don't be like this. Mrs. Stone will be fine. She's recovered well these past few years. The doctor just said so too." Her voice was soft, trying her best to soothe me. I rubbed my face hard with both hands and didn't speak. Thankfully, there were no major issues. No relapse of her old illness. Just some shock. By the time the admission procedures were done, it was the next morning. I stood at the door of the ward hesitating for a few minutes before lifting my foot to leave. Evelyn figured out my intention. "I'll drive you. You're going back to get things, right?" The apartment complex was truly dilapidated. The motion sensor lights in the stairwell worked intermittently. Evelyn almost missed a step several times. "You've lived here for the past few years?" I didn't answer. I just silently walked into the room to pack my mom's clothes. When we went downstairs, I saw the breakfast cart at the gate was set up. I treated her to breakfast, a coffee and a bagel. Evelyn seemed to have more to say, but I beat her to it. "Don't come anymore. We've made everything clear that needed to be said. Let's just end it here." Her hand trembled slightly. "Okay." After she left, I asked around to find out where Julian was today. By evening, I went directly to a hotel where he was attending a gathering. Most of the people there were colleagues from the same company, old acquaintances of mine. Team leader Stone, how come he's here? Didn't he resign ages ago? I ignored everyone else and found Julian in the crowd. Julian looked up and saw me, shocked and a little guilty. Caleb, what brings you to our gathering? Shouldn't you be at the hospital with your mom? He swallowed his words back into his stomach. I punched him in the face. Instantaneously, he spat blood, a tooth hitting the floor. He grimaced in pain, clutching half his face and spitting blood, but didn't say a word. My mom's incident. Did you do it? He frowned. I don't know what you're talking about. I stared at his handsome features and repeated, did you hire someone to smash my mom's fruit stand? The private room was dead silent. I snapped, grabbed a wine bottle from the table, and smashed it over his head. Wine mixed with blood flowed down his face. It was terrifying. I looked at him coldly. We're grown men. Playing these little bitch games is pointless. Back then, when I was with Evie, you staged that watch incident to push me out. Now you want to use my mom to scare me. Julian Thorne, I'm warning you. Have some limits as a human being. If you dare do this again, I have nothing to lose. I am capable of anything. Julian didn't deny a single word from start to finish. Actually, on the way there, I thought about a lot. Back then, we never found the person who stole the watch. But 5 years later, in a usually peaceful alley, a common fruit stand was smashed to pieces for no reason. Originally, I only had suspicions. But when I heard Julian ask why I wasn't with my mom, I instantly knew it was him. All eyes in the room converged on Julian. No one expected that the gentleman who looked as gentle as jade was actually this kind of manipulative man behind the scenes. So the incident back then was staged by Julian? The team leader never stole his watch. Back then, it seemed like Director Thorne was the one who led the search of Caleb's desk too. The whispers eventually turned into loud condemnation. The twigs and leaves of memory were magnified, countless eyes wandering between him and me. Finally, someone muttered an apology. I vaguely remembered he was one of the people who used to lock his luxury goods in his drawer. I don't know how I left the hotel. I just felt the streetlights outside were dim. I squinted for a long while before slowly coming back to my senses and returning to the real world. On the way to the hospital, I bought the warm suit my mom liked best. Evelyn came again. I stopped at the ward door and heard my mom speaking to Evelyn, thanking her for running around all night. Evelyn looked down and said nothing. My mom smiled. I have to thank you. 5 years ago, if you hadn't given Caleb that sum of money, my life would have been over. But then you two didn't contact each other much. Evelyn looked up and saw me standing at the door. Her voice trembled. What money? I didn't answer her, just stepped aside to let her walk out of the room. Outside, she couldn't bring herself to look at me. Evelyn, actually 5 years is long enough. You should learn to let go. You just always gotten whatever you wanted growing up. Stumbling upon someone you couldn't have just made you a little unwilling to accept defeat. No, Evelyn said, aggrieved. It's not about winning. I'm not a teenager anymore. I know the difference between unwillingness and love. After you resigned, I looked for you for years. I didn't tell anyone to give you money, and I certainly didn't hint for you to leave. I thought you understood me. She suddenly realized. Caleb, did you know from the start that the money wasn't for me? Does it matter? I said slowly. Didn't you also sense early on that something was wrong with the watch incident? Evelyn's beautiful face was devoid of color. Finally, she just said, I tried. I just didn't want to be apart from you. Is that so hard? Fate sometimes feels helpless. I spoke very, very softly. Evie, let go. Live your own life well. Okay. I really can't use my mom's peaceful life to play games with you people anymore. Evelyn stood there, eyes red, tears falling. Finally, she said just one word. Okay. After that day, Evelyn never appeared again. Mom was discharged soon after. A few days before New Year's, I got my year-end bonus. I bought some ingredients and had hot pot with Mom. Everything was moving in a good direction. Evelyn sent a text message. Let's meet one last time. The South rarely gets heavy snow. Evelyn stood in the swirling snow, staring at me obsessively. Make a wish. Wishes made in the snow come true easiest. I closed my eyes. This is a New Year's gift. I shook my head. No need. Keep it for yourself. Let's say our final goodbye here. Evelyn's eyes darkened. She looked at me, then nodded slightly. Go home quickly. After I turned around, she softly said, Happy New Year. I didn't look back. When I took my mom to the hospital for a follow-up, I saw Julian. He was suddenly much thinner, looking skeletal. His arm was in a sling. He was on the phone. I vaguely heard Evelyn on the other end. Evie, do you have to do this to me? I didn't know what was said on the other side, but Julian looked pale. He smashed his phone onto the ground. I zoned out. When I looked up again, Julian was gone. Later, I heard people say that Evelyn and Julian had an accident a while back. They said somehow their two cars collided. The front half of Evelyn's red sports car was destroyed, and Julian's car had flipped over completely. I remember the scene of meeting Julian at the hospital. In the end, I kept my silence. I didn't probe into the deeper reasons behind the event. The weather gradually improved. I heard Mom busy in the kitchen. All right, time to eat, time to eat. Happy New Year, Mom. I took out a thick envelope and stuffed it into Mom's hand. Mom waited. Too much. You keep it. You still need to marry a wife. You keep it for me first. Use it for the wedding later. The windows were shut tight. The strong wind outside couldn't blow in. But I could see the telephone poles shaking. The steam rising from the hot pot made me feel like I was back in my childhood. I smiled and helped Mom set the table. Mom, this year I'll definitely find you a daughter-in-law, have a chubby grandson, and make you even busier next year. Okay, story complete.